Imagine killing your own parents and then telling the internet it could be a really big hit. That's exactly what Sarah Grace Patrick did. In part 1, we saw how her troubled life exploded into a brutal crime that shocked Georgia. But what happened after? Today, we dive deep into the police investigation, Sarah's bizarre interrogation, her chilling courtroom performances, and the moment she begged true crime influencers to cover her case, like it was some kind of show. Stay until the end, because Sarah's story is darker, weirder, and more disturbing than you think. When the flashing red and blue lights first painted the quiet Georgia street, neighbors peeked from behind curtains, whispering in disbelief. Something horrific had happened inside the Patrick household. The kind of thing you read about in tabloids or watch in documentaries. Not the sort of nightmare you expect just a few doors down. Police officers stepped out of their cruisers and approached the home. The front door was slightly ajar, as if inviting them into a crime scene that would leave scars on everyone who dared to enter. Inside, the smell of gunpowder still lingered faintly in the air. It mixed with something heavier, something metallic, blood. The living room was dim, eerily still, like time had been frozen the second violence tore through it. On the floor, the bodies of Sarah's mother and stepfather told a story no one wanted to believe. 2 lives cut short in brutal fashion, in a house that was supposed to be a place of safety. Inside the house, 2 bodies, a bloody mess, and signs of rage. But what chilled investigators most was what they didn't find. Forced entry. No break-in. No robbery. Which meant the killer was likely someone inside. And the number 1 suspect? 17-year-old Sarah. While officers collected evidence, Sarah was taken into custody. At first, she tried to act calm, but as the night dragged on, cracks started to show. Officers moved slowly, weapons drawn, every step deliberate. They cleared each room, expecting maybe an intruder, maybe signs of a break-in. But there was no forced entry, no shattered glass, no signs of anyone storming into the Patrick home from outside. Instead, there was silence and absence, because one person was missing. 17-year-old Sarah Grace Patrick, the daughter of one victim, the stepdaughter. When police finally located Sarah, she wasn't trembling. She wasn't broken down in tears like most teenagers would be after such a tragedy. No, according to first responders, she seemed oddly calm. That calm would soon turn into something more chilling, an almost attached curiosity. She asked questions, but not the right ones. Not, "Are they okay?" or "Can I see them?" Instead, she seemed concerned about what people would think. Officers noted it right away. Something about her demeanor felt off. While officers collected evidence, Sarah was taken into custody. At first, she tried to act calm, but as the night dragged on, cracks started to show. And now the interrogation. Picture it. A cold room, fluorescent lights, just Sarah and 2 detectives. They started slow, asking simple questions. But Sarah's answers kept shifting. At one point, she laughed. Another, she cried. Then, in a moment that stunned investigators, Sarah leaned back in her chair, smirked, and asked, "So, are people gonna cover this? Is this, gonna blow up online?" Yes, while her parents' bodies were still warm. Sarah was already thinking about Clout. Detectives noted every strange reaction. Her nervous giggles, her sudden outburst of tears, and her obsession with whether people would be talking about her. It was a kind of interrogation you'd expect to see in a movie, not real life. The lead detective leaned forward, voice steady. "Sarah, we need to talk about what happened tonight." And so began hours of questioning that would leave even hardened investigators unsettled. Sarah's tone was flat, robotic. She described the night in short, vague sentences. She said she was in the house, but she didn't remember everything. Detectives pressed. That's when Sarah did something that shook them. She smiled. Not a nervous twitch. Not a fleeting, awkward grin. No, a full, unexplainable smile. And then, almost instantly, her face collapsed into tears. Loud, dramatic sobbing. The swings were extreme. Detectives weren't sure if they were seeing the trauma of a teenager in shock or the manipulation of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. Behind the one-way mirror, other officers observed. They began piecing together the evidence. The lack of forced entry suggested the killer was someone inside the home. The gun, registered to the stepfather, had Sarah's fingerprints. The timeline didn't add up with Sarah's first version of events. Piece by piece, suspicion turned into certainty. Sarah wasn't just a witness. She was a prime suspect. When detectives confronted her with the evidence, Sarah shifted again. Her crying stopped, her breathing steadied, and then, in a quiet, almost casual voice, she admitted it. She said yes, she had done it. But the reason she gave was what turned this from tragedy into a story so bizarre, so disturbing it would later dominate headlines. She told police she thought it would make a really big hit online. She wanted her story to go viral. She wanted true crime influencers to cover her case. It wasn't about hate. It wasn't about abuse. It wasn't even about money. It was about clout. Fast forward to the courtroom. Sarah Grace Patrick became the girl everyone couldn't look away from. At her first appearance, she walked in wearing the standard lime green jumpsuit, her face pale, her hair tied back, and then she did something bizarre. She smiled. Reporters described it as chilling. 1 second, she was smirking like she was enjoying the spotlight. The next, she broke down sobbing, wiping tears with trembling hands. It wasn't just once, it was a pattern. Smile, cry, smile, cry. Almost like she knew the cameras were rolling. But the most shocking moment came when Sarah spoke up in court. She looked straight at the room, and instead of apologizing or showing remorse, she said something no one could believe. She begged true crime influencers to cover her case. Her exact words? It would be a really big hit. Not justice for my parents. Not I didn't do it. Just make me go viral. The courtroom gasped. Even the judge paused. It was a moment that perfectly summed up this entire tragedy. Sarah wasn't just accused of killing her parents. She was treating it like content. Once her words hit the internet, the reaction exploded. Some people were horrified. She killed her parents for attention. This is pure evil. Others were stunned. Is this a generation so addicted to clout that even murder becomes a trend? And of course, conspiracy theories started flooding TikTok and YouTube. Clips of Sarah smiling and crying went viral. Memes, debates, heated comments. Everyone had an opinion. But at the heart of it, 2 lives lost, a family destroyed. And here's the truth. Sarah's trial is just beginning. The evidence against her is damning. But her defense team is already trying to spin the story. Will Sarah Grace Patrick be found guilty of cold-blooded murder? Or will her strange courtroom behavior twist the narrative in unexpected ways? That's exactly what we'll uncover in part 3 of this series. So if you want to see how the trial unfolds, subscribe so you don't miss stories like this. And comment your thoughts on this. At least tell us where you are watching from. Thank you.